The media does not control your brain. Probably. I suppose it's possible that the media has controlled my brain such that I'm convinced that the media doesn't control brains. It's also possible, if not more likely, that I'm one of the people controlling your brain, so it would behoove me to lie about whether or not your brain is controlled by media. Or maybe your brain is controlled, but you like it that way, so whatever, water under the bridge, control away. If we can agree that the media doesn't literally control your brain, good. But still, we can't ignore the fact that the media, news, entertainment, even educational media, is able to handily deliver messages which impact the way we see the world. We learn our personal values from our parents, our friends, colleagues, and authority figures, but we also gain tons of insight about ourselves and the world from the arts, sciences, politics, entertainment, journalism. Much information about this stuff gets to us through the media. So the question is, as the media is bringing information and insight to us, and that information/insight is having some kind of impact on our thoughts and actions, how exactly does that happen? How is it that media contains messages which we parse, judge, and sort into good or believable and bad or not believable? How does a message turn into an opinion or a behavior? Well, one explanation is the magic bullet theory, which is in reference to an actual bullet and not the magic bullet blender that you can buy on QVC.
Instant guacamole.
Sometimes called the hypodermic needle model as well, this media theory dates way back to the 1930s. It was popular during World War II when propaganda in both Germany and the United States was a big part of the media landscape.
Working together to produce an ever greater abundance of material and spiritual values for all. That is the secret of American prosperity.
At the time, it was thought that all audiences would respond basically uniformly to messages contained in media, that media messages were like bullets shot into the brains of spectators, or in the case of the hypodermic needle model, a serum injected into their bloodstream, and that they wouldn't be able to resist its effects. Basically, it was thought that media could directly influence public opinion. This was also an explanation as to how someone like Hitler, a literally evil overlord, could come to power. The relatively nascent technologies of radio and moving pictures could contain impossible to resist messages that would just implant into the minds of its audiences. Today, this sounds absurd, and actually remarkably like a conspiracy theory that the media can inject thoughts and meaning into its audiences who are unable to resist them. I know they're not the same sunglasses, but just bear with me. You get the joke. But as media theorists, psychologists, and other experts tempered their assumptions about things like human nature and uniform effective response with, research and stuff, two other theories came about. The first is called two-step flow. After thinking through the hypodermic needle model for a while, it became clear that it didn't account for the differing effectivenesses of media messages, or the varying not having itness of audience members, or the fact that people talk to one another. We don't all consume media in our individual media consumption cells and then stand dutifully silent in the break room discussing nothing of what we've watched, read, or thought. So where the magic bullet theory supposed a direct influence of media on its audiences, two-step flow inserts a middleman. Between media and audience sits an authority figure, an opinion leader is what they're usually called, who are seen by others as well-informed, well-connected, and/or just good at what they do. They don't need to be famous or even popular, but often they are. Opinion leaders may be people on the TV, your coworker who seems to know a lot about politics, your aunt who works for the IRS, or your pal Janine who's the office manager of a small business. They consume, digest, and refine the output of mass media and bring it to their own audience, who see them as more trustworthy than the media itself, making the two steps of two-step flow: one, media messages moving from source to opinion leader, and two, from opinion leader to the masses. Unlike the magic bullet, two-step flow admits that there's a social component to one's media diet. It isn't simply that the media does a thing and we accept the thing as a thing worth accepting. There's also a negotiation between various streams of media, their related messages, and social authority figures related to those media, as well as communities which form around it all. For some people, though, the agency provided by two-step flow doesn't go far enough. It still says media kinda influences people who then influence other people. It's the turtles all the way down of media influence. Two-step flow also has a complicated relationship to the internet, which amplifies opinion leaders, or influencers is I think what we're calling them these days, but it also empowers consumers, allowing them direct contact with media messages of their choosing. So it's how they do that choosing and how the choosing then affects their opinions that brings us to one final theory called uses and gratifications. Uses and gratifications is less a theory and more a way to think about why it is certain people gravitate towards certain media messages. The long and short of uses and gratifications answer to why people consume the media they do is because they wanna. In hoping to understand why people use media and what exactly they use it for, one proposed angle is that there are certain personal goals, views, or outcomes which certain media can help people reach, reinforce, or produce. Media may help us look smarter at work, may give us something to talk about with friends. Media may be cathartic, empowering, relaxing, or just simply interesting. Media has uses, and in that usage we may feel gratified. That gratification then feeds back into how we choose more media and form our opinions around it. If we feel gratified, that media must have been right or good, and then we return to it. It's an effective tautology. We agree with media that makes us feel nice, and we feel nice about media that we agree with. So if the hypodermic media needle is like medicine that your body can't resist, and two-step flow is sort of like people you trust handing out the hypodermic needles, then uses and gratifications is like you standing in the cold, flu, and pain reliever aisle at the pharmacy deciding which brightly colored box is gonna unclog your schnoz. You gonna go with the one that's worked before, or the one that your pal Ashley recommended? Or maybe just the one that looks really nice, or the cheapest? More so than media injecting us with messages or us going to opinion leaders to find out what it all means, uses and gratifications assumes that the audience will find and experience the media which is most useful to them for whatever reason that may be, which is the part that's easy to take issue with. Don't get me wrong, there are all kinds of uses for uses and gratifications. It gives most of the agency to people and not media, which is A+, nice work, good job. The problem is that it may give people so much agency, it sort of glosses over some of the things that are actually troubling about the media ecosystem and all of the powerful forces working within it. Threatening music and stuff. But seriously, like, to what degree can we really say that people's gratifications are fully self-determined? I'm not about to put my tinfoil hat back on and say that the media controls our brains and tells us what to like, but we also know how the mere exposure effect means the more we're exposed to something, especially a media something, the more we identify with it. This is one of the central principles of advertising, which both is and works for the media. I'm not uncritically defending the hypodermic needle, but media organizations do work very, very hard in lots of different and sometimes very tricky ways to get us to experience and accept certain messages even if we're not interested in them. Second, I think we can question the degree to which media consumption is clearly usage or gratification oriented. It may be hard/impossible to say how and why someone enjoys a thing, or how exactly enjoyment or usefulness factor into choices determining one's media diet. You need only talk with a few friends about their favorite music, movies, books, or whatever to discover that most humans are not great at knowing why we like stuff. We like stuff because certain other people like it, because certain other people don't like it, because we've been told to, because we feel we have to, and a million other reasons. And rarely do we sit down and think, ah yes, I find this media message pleasurable and I will allow it to dictate my opinions because the in-group I wish to belong to believes that, nope, it doesn't work that way. In the end, to the degree that opinions and beliefs are influenced by the media we consume, how that works may be a weighted combination of these three ideas, operating at varying levels of complexity and effectiveness, just hopefully not perfect effectiveness. To return to our metaphor, standing in the grocery store aisle looking at boxes doesn't describe all of medicine, only one part, and it doesn't cancel the other parts out. They all coexist. Just as, if not more helpful, maybe to use these theories to talk about how we want media to interact with public opinion. Being able to recognize when, how, and that certain opinions and beliefs are carried, reinforced, and often encouraged by particular media sources. We're able to ask if the fact and method of such a thing is something that we're comfortable with. Are any of your preferences, for lack of a better word, injected? Why does certain media gratify you the way that it does? And why do you take what Janine says so serious?
Ghostbusters, what do you want?
What do y'all think? Which of these three media theories do you think is the most believable? Or how do you see them working together? What do you experience in your own media diet? Let us know in the comments and I will respond to some of them in next week's comment response video. In this week's comment response video, we talk about your thoughts regarding video game bosses. If you wanna watch that one, you can click here or find a link in the doobly-doo. Couple bits of news, I talked with David Walensky for his ongoing video games interview project, No Don't Die, about that very thing, video games. We talked about violence, and some of those ideas eventually became the Undertale video, talked about the video game fandom as a whole, why I am not interested in shooting soldiers anymore, and all kinds of stuff, so we'll put a link to that in the description. Also in the description, you will find a link to The Hustle Economy, which is a book that I am in. It's a book that's about what it means to be a creative professional working independently, and it's all of these essays about what it means to do that work, what it means to have a side hustle or a hustle, as it were. And I wrote a chapter about the advice, do what you love, which I think is simultaneously the best and worst thing you can say to someone who has just graduated college and is trying to figure out what to do with their lives. So we'll put a link to that in the description too if you wanna check it out. We have a Facebook, an IRC, and a subreddit, links in the doobly-doo. And the tweet of the week comes from Indy Evan, who shared a bunch of photos of his local park full of people playing, surprise, surprise, Pokemon Go. And I really like it. It makes me think about, I was having a conversation with some people on Twitter about Pokemon Go kind of reversing what modernist city planning did to communities, which was, modernist city planning sort of put all of these blocks around the city and divided communities and divided spaces and doesn't provide enough space for people to gather. And is it possible that Pokemon Go is kind of providing that space, just you access it through your phone, but also while walking? I don't know, I like it.